fun to try to narrow it down.
Yeah, did you have to do some shootouts?
Yeah, yeah, and I had it solidified probably about a week ago, maybe a little
Hmm.
more, and things kept creeping in. I was like, oh yeah, what about you know?
So just real quick, uh, for the sake of videography, I guess. Um, I'm Guitar Vacation. This is my brother being referred to as Music Bro. And we're going to do a list of top five songs that just get us in the feels. You know, when you're listening to that one song that, you know, it may have been something that from when you're a teenager, but it's one that if you're by yourself, you might have to shed a tear or two. But anyway, just jumping right into it, I know when we were uh, talking about how much fun we were having doing our lists and stuff, you said that you kind of gave yourself some parameters, right?
Right, yeah.
Tell me about that.
So, listening to a wide variety of music, uh,
Hmm.
I had so many songs that could have made it into this.
Yeah.
So many different type of artists. So I had to come up with something. This was just for me. So we didn't put any rules on ourselves
Right. Right.
as far as us both having a set of rules to work with. But to narrow it down, I kind of had to make some for myself. And it's kind of important to point out, I guess, that when something hits you emotionally, it's
Hmm.
not. Sometimes there's not always a great explanation. So
Mm.
some of these, I might have some trouble coming up with my explanation. But the rules I had was number one rule is it has to at least somewhat be in the rock genre.
Okay.
Um, and so this is your channel's guitar vacation. It's not piano time with friends. So there's a lot of stuff that was either piano based or that hits me hard. But I was
Hmm.
like, that's not really what I'm going for with this list. Number two rule for me was no covers. So there's a couple covers that I feel really, really strongly about,
Hmm.
but I just made that one of my rules that those can't make it in the list. There's some honorable mentions, I guess, that we'll get to, but no covers on the real list. Number three, it has to somewhat be a full band effort.
Gotcha.
Um, so singer, the lyrics to some extent, the guitars, the bass, the whatever the song has in it can't be just a one person deal. Um, so with that, it kind of cuts out a lot of like singer songwriter stuff that's great that might
Yeah.
hit you in the feels.
Hmm.
So I took those out because I have a lot of those too.
That would have made your list twice as hard, probably. Huh?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So the my fourth and final rule, I think I somewhat stuck to this is it can't be a song that would probably make it on most rock fans' list.
Gotcha.
So there's a couple, and we'll mention them when we get to honorable mentions. That it'd be. I wasn't shooting for obscure, but I was shooting for something that not everybody would choose.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Take out your top 10 internet list ones,
Right,
right?
right. So that's kind of what I ended up working with, and it was still really hard.
Yeah. No,
So
cool. That's a good approach, and I think.
And we do not know each other's. I
Yeah,
think that's
right, right.
important to note. And there's one song in particular that I didn't choose because I thought you would choose it,
Mm-hmm.
and you may have done the same thing
Mm-hmm.
if it works out to it, because this song is like a number one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if it works out to where neither one of us chose it, we'll put it at number one for both of us.
Okay, that's fair enough. Yeah, that I think it's natural. We're gonna have some overlap because a couple of our bands are some of the favorite bands. We listen to the same stuff
Hmm.
growing up, but we also have some variation too. Like you listen
Hmm.
to stuff I don't,
Hmm.
and I listen to the stuff you don't. So yeah, I I didn't sit down and make rules per se, but I kind of intentionally cold. Like I didn't do any instrumental or any
Right.
jazz
Uh,
stuff, or so I definitely aimed the list towards kind of what we were going after. Did you want to start off? Did you have any like uh, not honorable mentions, but off the beaten path slash guilty pleasures that you don't listen to anything else by this band or one hit wonders or
oh
anything that?
yeah, like um, I think, and we discussed this one is Mazzy Star Fade Into You
Mm-hmm.
is like, if that song comes on, I'm like in another
Oh
place.
yeah, yeah,
It's a simple song. There's nothing really special about it other than it seems to hit me and a lot of other people like real emotionally.
for
Um,
sure.
a quick little story. I know this is, I guess, more in the pop genre, but I remember it was the first Christmas that I had a daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to go to work that day. And so it's early in the morning. We had already kind of done our Christmas thing. I have a little baby at home, and I'm on my way to work, and it's dark and it's quiet, and I'm at a red light, and the first time I hear Adele's "Someone Like You"
Mm.
is at that red
Oh
light,
wow,
and I'm like driving Christmas morning.
got me in the
And the
feels.
song doesn't have anything to do with the
Yeah,
situation, but it just hit me. A super popular song,
yeah,
everybody respects it or whatever, and but so I got a lot like that. Once again, not really what we're shooting for here, but I
yeah.
have
That's a
have a
perfect
similar
example of
song.
an outlier, though.
Yeah,
It's like you're not sitting around listening to Adele albums,
right. Yeah,
but she's got a couple
yeah,
that will
bangers.
get you, yeah, in the right in the feels.
Yeah.
Um, Mine, I had, uh, I don't know why this isn't a genre I listen to, uh, but it's a song called "Crazy" by Casey and JoJo.
Oh yeah, great
Dude,
song.
that song
Yeah. No.
is
Yeah.
I love that song.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I may have sent you this somewhere down the line, um, but it's a song called "Heartbeats" by a band called The Knife, and it's the live version
Mm.
that's out there on YouTube. Um, they're like a techno keyboard band,
Mm-hmm.
and there's this version they do of that song live that is just magical.
Yeah.
And I even like, so, me being me, I went and listened to the album version. I was like, hmm.
Not as good.
No, they
Yeah.
do a totally different rendition. And Ellie Goulding, she's
Oh
kind
yeah.
of yeah,
He's
she
good. Yeah.
does a cover of that song.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome too.
Yeah.
So you may like that.
Yeah. I'll have to look up her version of it.
Yeah, it's the lyrics are great.
Yeah. I think with this whole thing, it's kind of like they're all guilty pleasures. And if it hits
Yeah,
you in a certain way, there's really no need to explain because it's something inexplicable as far as the way your emotions go, or the
true.
time you heard it and that sort of thing.
Yeah. And that really, before we get into our top five, that is, it would be to pass over the power of music and how you can listen to a song that you were listening to when you were going through something at
Right.
15, right? And it won't remind you of it. It'll put you right there. You
Your
will,
body is there. Yeah,
yeah,
your inside feeling
yep,
is there. Yeah.
yep. And that is, it goes right into songs that get us in the feels, because that's going to be some of our picks are tied to where we were in our lives when we first got introduced to them. But I'll let you go first. Number five.
Okay, so I the order of these, um, I think my number two and my number one are pretty solid ordering, but 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 could, or 5, 4, 3 could all kind of be any one of those.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but number five for me is Out There by Dinosaur Jr.
Oh, wow.
Albums Where You Been,
Yeah.
1993. Um, this song is one of the probably the only one, yeah, definitely the only one on my list that has the unique ability to hit me in the feels and also give me like a motivational, like it's hard, it's edgy, it's dirty, it's raw.
Mm-hmm.
This feeling of almost getting hyped up too,
Mm-hmm.
because you'd have to almost have a whole nother um list for
Pump up
to get you
songs.
going.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
this one fits both depending on what mood
That's
I'm in.
awesome.
I can
I,
remember the first time I heard it. It was actually Doug Queen, and he
yeah.
said, "Have y'all ever heard of Dinosaur Jr.?" We were playing with this guy Doug Queen. He was a guitar player, and I was like, "No, I've never heard that." And he played the opening riff to Out There, and I was like, so I went home. I don't know how I found it or where, because it's kind of obscure and not everybody knows Dinosaur Jr. But
Mm-hmm.
somehow we got the song, and he's not the greatest singer. It's not the best produced, but what it is raw and emotional, and to me heart wrenching.
For sure. Yeah, and that's rest in peace to the fellow
Yeah,
that introduced us to that. He was gone way too soon,
yeah,
and definitely some of the some of the memory of that song definitely
it's
tied.
connected to him for
Yeah,
sure.
for
Yeah.
sure. Um, I I would have never guessed you picking Dinosaur Jr. That's really cool. Um, when me and my daughter, we a month or two ago, I think I told you over Christmas or whatever, but we went to see Morrissey,
Hmm.
the Smiths lead singer, and on the way we had to play a game. It was like, okay, you play a song, then I would get to play a song, and that was one of the ones I showed her
Oh, nice.
was Out
Did you
There.
like it?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
she did. She likes kind of indie stuff. She's got all my CDs, so that's got to be a weird experience where you're like, oh, The
Yeah.
Cure, oh, Slayer,
Right.
Steve Vai,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, my number five is from one of our favorite bands, but it's not a track. It's kind of a B side. Most people, you never hear it talked about, but it's Alice in Chains' Shaming You off the Three Legged Dog album.
Good pick. Yeah.
And, like I said, it's not considered one of the highlights in their catalog when you hear people, it wasn't a hit, it wasn't a single, but off that album, you know, now in retrospect, we know where Lane was
Yeah.
toward the end of his life. If I'm not mistaken, that's one of the ones he had more of a hand in writing,
Yeah.
and it's just some of the whole mood of the song, the ups and downs. You know, there's the part at the beginning where they first transition and Jerry Cantrell does this little solo fill, this little
Hmm.
burst. You know, that's one of the best little
Yeah.
lead guitar parts. You know, perfect right place, and then the crescendo of the song to me is when the lyrics are, and I must say, I was stupid, selfishly, and the way
Yeah.
he cadences the
Hmm.
syllables of that, and gets me in the feels.
Yeah.
You know that there's several songs that from Alice I could choose,
Yeah. Me too.
but definitely that one, since it's so kind of under the radar, I put it as
And
my
that
five.
album as a whole had a lot more of the stamp of Lane on it. He
I
wrote
agree.
more on that album than anything else, and it was their darkest album to me. And for Alice in Chains, that's saying quite a
Yeah,
bit.
yeah. There's, that's not the first one people grab, but man, there's so much there in that album.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about the beauty of the first track when the chorus, let the sun have, I
Yeah.
mean, you know,
Yeah.
it's a great album
Yeah. It
among
hits you.
a great catalog. So, all right, well, good stuff. So, number four.
Number four. So I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation on this. This is by Sigur Rós, the
Mm-hmm.
Icelandic band. Sven Gengler,
Mm.
1999. It's
Oh
on the
man.
soundtrack of Vanilla Sky. If you have not been exposed to this band, think even think experimental Radiohead, later Radiohead stuff, almost with a dreamy shoegazer feel.
Yeah, for sure.
Some of the most inventive sounding guitar, where he's using roslyn and a bow on the
Yep.
guitar. It's a thing I'd never heard of until this song. I have no idea what they're talking about. And if you get the lyrics in English, you still won't know what they're talking about.
But it
And
doesn't even matter. It's
it
so
does
awesome.
not matter. So if you have not heard this song, uh, give it a listen and see if it hits you like it hits me. It's the same thing like I was talking about with the Mazzy Star song. If I hear this song, I am transported to like a dreamlike nostalgia and
Mm-hmm.
almost sadness. It's hard to explain, but this song hits me emotionally without any attachment to what it's about for the band because I really have no clue.
It sounds like whatever it was, you're picking up what they're putting down because
I,
they
I,
probably,
I guess I hope so.
yeah, getting that reaction. I'm sure they would feel like they succeeded as
Yeah, it's
musicians.
definitely a song I think that's in the eye of the beholder.
Hmm. And we were listening to that before Magnolia came out,
Right. Yeah.
and that also made it cool because that was a cool movie at the time.
Yeah.
And then we're like, what they put? We didn't think anybody
Yeah.
knew
Yeah.
about
I
this
didn't
stuff.
think anybody listened to him.
Yeah, yeah. I'm I'm gonna have to take a listen to that. I hadn't listened in forever to
Yeah, it's been a
Seguros.
long time, but if I'm ever in that mood, I'll throw it on. I'll listen to it fairly regular.
Yeah, you got me remembering it, and the how it has kind of a soft intro that builds
Hmm.
up. That is
Yeah,
so cool.
and then the guitar comes in as so
Yeah.
powerful, but not like any other guitar sound.
Mm-mm.
The production on it's pretty interesting too.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one, man. Good pick. Uh, my number four. It There were a lot of songs sung by Maynard Ken that
Hmm.
I could have picked.
Me too.
Um, the one I picked is actually, I don't listen to a lot of Perfect Circle, but the song Three Libras.
I almost picked that. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah. Uh, that, you know, it, in the human experience,
Yeah,
you learn early on the feeling of, you know, is it is love a powerful feeling? Yes.
yeah,
But unfortunately for humans, I think it's felt most powerfully when it's lost or
yeah.
unreturned.
Right.
And, you don't see me. You
Yeah,
don't see me.
yeah,
And the, lyrics, and I talked about the cadence, nobody can do
yeah.
what Maynard
No.
does. Just, but I'm naked but oblivious.
Yeah.
Oh God,
So
dude.
about a week ago, when I was second guessing my list, and I didn't end up changing anything, one of my big problems with my list is he's probably my favorite musician.
Hmm.
Really, the band Tool in general, the whole band really,
And
and
you got the Pussifer stuff, and
yeah.
yeah,
So I had he did not make it on my list because most of his stuff that I really like should be on a different list.
yeah, for
Um,
sure.
so just not to get into the honorable mentions too early, but I had that. I had Invincible by Tool, and
Hmm.
I had Humbling River by Pussifer. If
Mm.
you've never heard that,
I'll have to
great
check that
song.
out.
Um, so uh, I almost took out my next pick for Three Libras. I'm glad I didn't now because you picked it, but I was this close.
Yeah, that's a good one, man.
Yeah.
It's if it's the top of a list of songs that get emotion that Maynard sings, that's
Hmm.
pretty high
Yeah.
accolades, and I'm like you, you know, it, I'll put on the old Tool when I want to feel just that gritty, threadbare,
Yeah.
angry, and the I'll put on the new progressive when I want to be introspective, and it
Right.
can,
Yeah. Philosophical. I'm on the
yeah,
drop and I just want to think about stuff. I'm going to listen to some of their later stuff.
and
So
that they have
hit you in the feels, but in a different way
for sure.
than I was going for in this list, other than those three songs that I mentioned, and Three
Yeah,
Liquor is one of them. So
yeah, cool, cool, man. All right, uh, number three.
number three. Um, so this is one I thought about a lot, and I ended up keeping it on because it was one of the first ones I came to. Um, and I'll give you my reasons after I say it, but it's Creep by Radiohead off Pablo Honey, 1993.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed 93 came up two times on my list. So that's
Huh.
kind of the year that music really changed.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I went with this song is it embodies what an insecure 12 to 17-year-old dude is feeling like.
Mm,
And, it wasn't all the time, but there was definitely times in my life where I identified with the feelings in that song.
for sure.
Um, it's funny, I did not really love it until I became an adult. And when I would hear it, like you said earlier, it put me right back in that
Hmm.
spot and I could experience those feelings again and kind of process them maybe a little bit better than I would have been able to at the time. I never really picked up on the uh, the insecurity and kind of self destruction, the mental self destruction that the the song's written about.
Hmm.
But I think everybody has that to some extent, especially in that age.
Hmm.
Um, and when the guitar first comes in, and it's
Yeah.
got that anger in it too, you know. Great song. What the live versions, the later live versions after they really become a good band are much better than the album version.
Hmm.
So that's important to note too. So if you hadn't seen it live, around the year maybe late '90s, 2000, that's when to get on YouTube and
Hmm.
check it out.
I've never listened to a live version of it. I'll
Great.
have to scope it out. Yeah. Yeah, that's a really interesting point you brought up that I wasn't thinking about, but I've definitely experienced. There are songs that were around,
Hmm.
and we're trying to be anti.
Yeah.
If it's cool to everybody else, it's not cool to
Yeah.
me.
We want obscure. Yeah.
Yeah, and then those can rear up back up later on when you don't have those chips on your shoulder. That's like
Yeah.
Sublime's a band like that for
Hmm.
me. I it's when they blew up and you couldn't get away from them on the radio. I was like,
Yeah.
that's something all these radio people are listening to. And now I love Sublime.
Right.
So that's an interesting phenomenon. Uh,
Number three.
yeah, my number three, it won't surprise you at all. I've referred to it as my favorite song for a long time. This is definitely one of my favorite songs, but it's the Sundays version of Wild
Oh
Horses.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great song.
Um, and both of us have already talked about, when we're talking Dinosaur Jr. or Sugar Rose, um, we were listening to that really college radio stuff
Hmm.
amongst other Tool, Alice in Chains,
Hmm.
and so I I really got into bands like the Sundays and stuff like that, and it is a cover. The OG song was by the Stones, and this version of it, in my opinion, is so bare bones,
Yeah.
but it takes a a beautiful song and gives it puts it on its pedestal.
Yeah.
That's where it is to me. And definitely, this is a time of life deal song.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
I
For sure.
really was introduced to it, it's baked in to
Right.
that DNA with uh, all the good and bad that make you you. So that's that would be on any top five list for me. That song. So
Yeah. It's funny. Everybody covers that song, but in all the covers I've heard of it, nobody covers it like the Sundays.
yeah, I've read about that. It was a that wasn't something planned. It like they weren't planning on, hey, let's put this on that album, which that whole album's really good.
Hmm.
Um, but it was like they were sitting around drinking after spending all day in the studio, and the guitar player started messing around with it, and before you knew it, they had put it on tape. As simple as
Yeah,
it was, and
magic.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Well, we're
Okay, so
getting on up there
yeah,
to
so
number two.
number two, and I think I broke my rule on obscurity with this one, and maybe broke the rule on it could pop up on anybody's list, but I could not leave off uh, a Pink Floyd song.
Mm-hmm.
So I had several that I was juggling, and I came to the conclusion that I wanted both Roger Waters and David Gilmour shining. I wanted that weird Pink Floyd thing where they go to from almost ugly to just beautiful. So I picked Comfortably Numb off the Wall, 1979. Um, there, I'm not a lead guitar player guy. There's some solos and stuff I like, as
Mm-hmm.
much as the next guy, unless it's David Gilmour. When David Gilmour plays, the tone and the tasteful way the guitar's talking to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not like that with lead usually,
Mm-hmm.
but in Comfortably Numb, I think he's got two big long solos in there. And as soon as he goes into that first one, man, it
Yeah,
hits me. Um, and you also have the writing and the characters that are being portrayed. I think The Wall is a masterpiece,
for sure.
just like Dark Side of the Moon's also a masterpiece. Um, but I was between picking Time and picking
Mm-hmm.
Comfortably Numb, and ultimately, I like Roger Waters a lot too.
Mm-hmm.
Is he a beautiful singer? No. Is he, a guitar aficionado like David Gilmour? No. But what he brings to the table is so powerful,
Mm-hmm.
and they can't really be the band they are without that.
Yeah,
So I went with Comfortably Numb because he plays a bigger part in that song.
you can't go wrong with that song, and I think that's one that is because it's so popular. The brilliance of it gets glossed over at
Hmm.
times, but I mean, uh, a distant ship smoke on the
Yeah.
horizon.
Yeah.
That just poetry and
Right.
emotion, and yeah, what you said about that. Yeah, everybody loves that solo, but it is one of the peaks of Gilmore doing why showing what he is so awesome at.
Yeah.
Both those solos, really, and you got the juxtaposition of, you know, Roger. Yeah, he's very obviously the crazy guy,
Yeah.
and then you have Gilmore come in with his vocals, and
And he's the subconscious and
yes,
the
the
child
good guy
inside.
in
Yeah.
there that's just
Yeah.
trying to figure it out. Man, good pick, very
Yeah.
good pick. Yeah, you can't go wrong with that. Uh, my number two is second appearance by Lane Staley, and it's River of Deceit
Oh, great
with
song. Yeah.
Mad Seasons.
Yeah.
Um, man, that that's one. If I'm in a reflective mood or drinking a couple of adult beverages by myself late at night and it comes on,
Yeah. Get
man,
you. Yeah.
yes, yes, and you know, and then when you put the man with the lyrics
Yeah.
too,
Right.
he wasn't joking around about this stuff.
No.
He wasn't using his imagination. He
Right.
was singing about
Yeah.
really about how he was thinking about life, and you know what is it? It says he talks about I'll just swim to shore and basically die and put it on a shelf and be there for
Yeah.
everybody. That gets me in the field.
Yeah. I think, truth be told, I could have came up with a list I was happy with just Alice in Chains, songs that had Staley, and or Jerry Cantrell solo stuff. I
Yeah.
could have came up with 5 songs just from that. And in fact, I stripped. I had Down in a Hole for a long
Mm-hmm.
time. I was just like, if you've heard that song, that's going to be on your list. So I took
Yeah.
it off, because I'm like, we're shooting for some stuff that, but I could have made the list with all their stuff. But
Yeah. I mean, me too. Really, they're already. He's already on there twice, and I obviously intentionally went for a little bit deeper cuts than your obvious, stuff everybody
yeah,
knows.
me too. Yeah.
But that I say all that doesn't diminish those picks. Mine are legit as far as at the top of the fields list. There's no there's no uh, hedge and bets about that. So
And this is actually going to segue great into my number one pick. And this truly, I've listened to it several times.
before you hit us with it, do you have any more
Oh,
honorable mentions?
yeah. So I think I mentioned pretty much Mayonnaise by the Smashing
Mm-hmm.
Pumpkins. That one gets me. Nirvana's Where Did You Sleep Last Night was cover. So I didn't include it.
That's a good
But
one.
when he does his little scream thing at the end, and there's a pause, and he looks up at the camera with
Mm-hmm.
his, you can see it in his eyes, and then he ends the song. Uh, and I can't remember exactly. I think it was just under a year he was dead.
Yeah.
Um, so that definitely would have made it on if it didn't break my rules. Um, Several songs off the Alice in Chains Unplugged. Um, there's a point. I think it's in. I think it's in Down in a Hole.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Lane was really sick. You can tell when it comes out,
Mm-hmm.
but he was really sick, and they weren't sure if he was going to be able to do what he does. And there's a point where Jerry Cantrell, Lane hits his notes. I think it's in Down in a Hole, and Jerry Cantrell looks at the band, and they do this at each other, and and not too much time after that, he was gone.
Yeah.
You know, um, kind of broke my uh, guitar singer songwriter thing, but several songs by the Counting Crows I could have put on
Mm-hmm.
there.
Yeah.
Colorblind.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I mean, there's a lot of Long December. Several songs by Chris Cornell when he was doing his solo stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Some Audio Slave could have made it on there. I Am the Highway could have made it. Um, so yeah, that's I've covered a lot of things that I think I thought about putting on this list. But as soon as this is over, I'm going to think of 5 or 6 more that compete with my top 5. So
Yeah.
that's just the way it goes. How
Right.
about you?
Yeah. Well, the good news is you can still listen to them anytime you want, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and the list is malleable in according to what you are that day, right?
Yeah.
So I just had a few honorable mentions. You already mentioned Floyd. The Floyd song I picked was "Breathe" because
Great one.
you know it. It's just what you get introduced to when you're going on the
Yeah.
ride, because you should probably be listening to the whole album.
Yeah.
And that Dark Side of the Moon, even though rock radio has played it to death, I intentionally don't listen to it unless I'm ready to sit and listen to the
It's a
whole thing.
masterpiece. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why Breathe is made it on my list, is because it's the beginning of, hey, yeah, we're doing this, and you're
Yeah.
gonna go on this ride. Um, there another one of my favorite albums. You won't be surprised by this, but is "Loveless," the My Bloody Valentine album, and
Yeah. Great.
the song "Soon"
Hmm.
is one of the. There's a lot of great tracks on there, but that one is in particular kind of encompasses what made that album so emotionally powerful. I think the just huge otherworldly guitar sounds,
Yeah.
other sounds that aren't you know your typical alternative stuff,
Right.
and then the dreamy vocals that
Hmm.
um, and then I had to throw a Chris Whitley. I did Narcotic Prayer.
See
Um,
that was the song I was talking about. If you didn't choose
huh,
that, I figured you would.
yeah,
I think we both found Chris Whitley on our own
we
too.
did. Yeah.
God. The first album I listened to by him was either Dirt or Weed. It was one of the acoustic albums. So the first time I heard Narcotic Prayer was the acoustic version, and I
Mm-hmm.
love that too. But when I discovered him and found Den of Ecstasy later on, and heard Narcotic Prayer and how inventive the guitar work was, and almost back to the Dinosaur Jr. thing of just raw,
Mm-hmm.
dirty, just great guitar on there. So yeah, that's definitely was going to be one of mine too.
And the lyrics,
Yeah,
God, I this is probably my interpretation of them, but he's weighing. I never met no girl that's as good as heroin.
yeah, that's mine too.
Yeah, and it's got this kind of thing going on where there's a girl overdosing, and he's trying to justify, can I be the junkie I am and not save her,
Yeah,
or am I gonna do what I know is right? But I
yeah,
never met no girl.
yeah, right.
Man, that's
Yeah, I've always felt like it was what you said first, that the whole song heroin, especially with a female name,
mm-hmm,
is his girl, and there ain't
mm-hmm,
another girl that's ever going to compare to that.
right.
If I saw her bleeding, I would, if just like he's talking about some love in his life. There's nothing that would touch that feeling he's got towards this drug, and
It was
that,
real.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, kind of like we were talking about with Lane.
yeah,
He wasn't trying to be artistic. He was singing about his life.
yeah.
Yeah, man, that's a great one. All right, well, man, I'm sorry I messed up your segue.
Oh no, it's fine. So we're talking Alice in Chains, Lane, Jerry, right? Um, So this is a song that's probably going to be somewhat obscure to folks, but you got to listen to it. It's off what I think was Jerry Cantrell's first solo album, Boggy Depot, and it's Hurt a Long Time.
Mm, 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 mm.
This song is a clear number one for me. Uh, I've listened to it several times in the last couple weeks, and I'll save it for you if you save me for me. With the hole in my head, I can see when that part kicks in with the rock sound, the guitar sound. It's layered beautifully. The whole song. It's a full wall of sound of pure emotion. It just it gets me every single time, whether I listen to it 10 times back to back. And that's why I
Yeah.
picked it for number one off pure raw feelings.
You know, as we're talking about it, I think that song is so emotional. I avoid it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I definitely have too
Yeah.
up until I was making this list. I don't listen. There's a couple other Jerry Cantrell songs off Degradation Trip 31, 32. If you hadn't heard that song,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's a great one. My song off
Mm-hmm.
Boggy Depot, the guitar in it's so powerful. There's several of his songs I could have put on the list, um, and there's kind of a strange as a guitar player. Um, Jerry Cantrell seems to take the simple and tweak it and do something totally different than
Mm-hmm.
anybody ever has, without adding a whole bunch of complication. Um,
For sure.
he's not doing all sorts of crazy alternative tunings. He's not, but like if you learn to play some of his songs, you're like, well, this is this chord, and he just tweaked it this way, and it
Mm-hmm.
sounds like nothing I've ever heard
Mm-hmm.
before. You know, so he's definitely one of my favorite guitar players for that reason, and always an emotional songwriter.
Yeah. Great. Great songwriter. You know, that's not doing it justice. And that's is a really awesome pick because yeah, I can't say that I don't feel as strongly about that song. And the way the lyrics unfold, this isn't something that I'm thinking about doing.
Yeah,
This has happened.
it's been done, and it's from the
Tell her I
perspective.
love her. Tell her friends that I love her.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's you got to be in a mood, specific mood, to want to go there.
yeah, yeah,
But if
yeah,
you want to
yeah.
talk
And I
about the
don't
power
go
of music,
very often.
yeah, you can't you can't get much powerful than that. And uh, my number one is similar, actually, in tone, uh, and it's also it it's one I don't listen to often because I don't always want to go where it takes me. And this is not a it's an artist I like, uh, but it's not somebody I have everything they've ever done anything. But the Jason Isbell song "Elephant."
Oh, yeah. So that broke my singer songwriter
Yeah,
role. Um, but definitely, if we were making a list for singer songwriter, it would have been number one.
yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, you have yeah, it's a beautiful song about one of the most somber things that pretty much everybody is going to have some tie to. And the way he talks about it in his lyrics, um, he adds bittersweetness to desolate sadness
Yeah.
to um, just opening myself right up and
Yeah.
speaking about stuff that probably isn't even right to talk about.
Right.
And they're all there in that song,
Yeah.
man.
The I think it's the final verse when he talks about how I'm not going to be able to quote it, but he's talking about how you're surrounded by family and friends, but everybody dies alone. That we're all it's brutal. That
Mm-hmm.
was brutal. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Have to be in a certain mood. And I think probably I can listen to that one over the Jerry Cantrell song because uh, the Jerry Cantrell song has that personal,
Yeah.
you know, it's too painful for me.
Yeah. Right.
Whereas this, I can, it is a get you in the same feels and has
Yeah.
that power, but you can spread that out a little bit without, really cutting into anything that maybe you dealt with in your life.
Right.
So, man, great music.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of just talking about this stuff almost puts you in a somber feeling. I didn't expect that. I was hyped up and excited to do this,
Well,
and I'm
it was
kind of
fun to
more.
put the list
Yeah, it
together.
really
Yeah.
is. But I'm feeling really introspective too. I think um, all these songs they're so deep. They're exploring the human experience in a way that you can't get with I'm walking on sunshine, you know.
Right.
And you're not always in the state to do that. I think from the time I was probably about 15 to the time I was 18, 19, I was perpetually in this state. Um, and I had to almost remove myself from going there all the
Mm-hmm.
time through music.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm definitely happier that I don't do that constantly, and don't typically try to emulate this style of song when I'm writing, which I don't write much anymore. But typically when I do, it's in the style of Hurt a Long Time or
Mm-hmm.
Elephant. I want to hit you as hard as I can. I'm not those guys, but I want to do the best I can at doing that. Um, but if you do that too much too often, it you live in that place.
Yep.
Uh,
Oh,
and
that's very well said.
it's not a great place to live. I think most of these artists live in that place. If you look at their lives, look at what they've gone through, look at what type of people they are. A lot of them live in that place all the time, and the art's great for it, but it's tough on the life.
Yeah. That's part of their brilliance.
Mm-hmm.
They're so brilliant at this one thing, this making music. And because of that, there may be other aspects of their life that are a mess,
Right.
and that's a dichotomy that you see in a lot of the highest levels of art. You know,
Hmm.
your stars that burn brightest, they they burn out
Yeah.
because you know to have that brilliance, there's going to be probably deficiency other places. And see,
Yeah.
that's why I'm not that great because, and I try to be balanced. So I'm not
So,
that great
yeah.
at music, but I can get to work on time. But I'm not a
Right.
drug
Right.
addict.
Yeah. Yeah.
I,
There's a line from a song I mentioned earlier, Jerry Cantrell's 3132. And I don't know if I can quote it exactly, but it's something like, um, you were voted the most likely to have your name go up in lights. It only took a
mm,
few years to make that true. Now you're most likely to end up dead alone in a hotel room. 31, 32. So yeah, he made it all come true, you know.
yeah, yeah,
And now he's still now you're most likely to die alone. You know, it's like, oh man.
yeah.
And this is a guy who's well respected, extremely rich, you know, lives the life, and and that's how he feels about it. You know, I don't want that to, even if I had the talent, which I don't, but even if I did, I wouldn't want that life.
It's not
And
worth it.
all these folks say what you want about the choices they made. They weren't great, I'm sure, but they have all self-sacrificed to give us this deep sadness of beauty. You know.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, kind of wrapping the whole thing up, we've mentioned Alice in Chains and Lane and Jerry a lot. Their first song on their first album, And We Die Young.
Yeah.
There were they they never promised you anything but what.
They had no misconceptions about
Yeah,
what they were getting into.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I hope other folks can benefit from hearing us run our mouths about our discussion, and you know, this would be like a something we'd talk about at Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
You
Right. Yeah.
know, right?
When the wife
Anytime
is in
we're
there
get
bored and they just kind of
yeah,
leave.
and and so this is kind of a
Yeah.
normal uh, type conversation for us, and you know, it's not always about music, but often we get
Yeah.
back around to it, and you know, even now when we send each other stuff when we
Hmm.
hey, are you have you heard this, and you know, so we're still on that musical journey together. But
Yeah.
if anybody else wants to weigh in on their picks that get them in the fields, or
Yeah. I would really love to hear
yeah,
anybody
yeah,
else's, especially if it's something I hadn't heard and got to go look for. You know.
that's the true gift, isn't it? When if anybody sees this, they can turn us on to
Yeah.
something else powerful. So, well, I want to thank my music bro for
Man, I think thank you. I really enjoyed this. I have not listened to music with the same fervor that I have in the last couple of weeks doing this. I'd
awesome.
really love to get another list too.
Oh
To
yeah, we
decide
can
what that should
definitely.
be, but
Yeah, we'll be thinking of that in the future because
yeah,
you know this is a conversation we're going to have anyway. So
right.
might as well fire
We
up
just
a,
thought, yeah,
computer. So anyway, we'll go ahead and close it up there, and just interested in anybody that wants to throw in their thoughts, and thanks again to my brother for joining me.
yeah, I
Well,
enjoyed it.
all right,
We'll
all
see ya.
right, y'all later.
All right.